Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I'm joined, as always, on every single show that I show up to, Brandon Anderson, for this week's Best Bets episode. Can't wait to dive through it. We are in the damn home stretch. But before we get into the bets, it's time to toss the pigskin back and forth with some topics, some trends, just some stuff happening in the NFL. And we're going to throw some bets in as we go through to each topic. But I want to start here, and I'm the guy that put this at the top because I just wanted to lay the stat out and then give Brandon a chance to maybe have a thought or two here. But it's really a lack of home field advantage currently in the NFL. And I think we've been talking about this for a few years now, but this stat kind of just brings it to the table. So the home road split in 2024 through 13 weeks is exactly even. 95 wins for the home team, 95 wins for the road team. The second worst year right now for home teams on the money line in terms of profit in our Bet Labs database, which goes back to 2005 when you talk about weeks. So road teams, though, 16 games above 500 ATS, and road favorites started out the year absurd, but still having the best season since 2008. And I'll give you one more before I give Brandon's opinion here. So these road favorites are actually also 78% on a 6-point teaser this year. Through 13 weeks, they were 72% last year, 67% the year before, 69% the year before that, and 71% in 2020 for some perspective. So, Brandon, just an overall blanket statement. Should we just be ignoring home teams in terms of the point spread back and forth? Is there certain teams maybe you think like rise above the rest? Toss it to you.
Yeah, I think it's situational here. I think definitely we have to acknowledge home field is slowly dissipating. So, I feel like back in the day, we used to think like 3 points for home field and kind of start there. That's clearly gone. That kind of dropped to 2.5. I think that now, if you look at a lot of the models out there, it's gone down to like 2, even 1.5, depending on the model that you check. To me, it's more that I'm almost thinking of like, okay, usually like 1.5 is a pretty good amount. Maybe 2 if it's a decent team or a team that I know has been good. But there's certain teams like Minnesota. I know that that's my fan team. Minnesota is a team that you hear players talk about. It's loud there. It's so loud. And that is a really tough place to play. And the numbers back that up. Places like Kansas City or Buffalo, where you get the outdoor factor. I think that's another one where it's like, okay, we've seen situationally that can still be, Green Bay. Maybe you put that as a 2, 2.5. Maybe you treat some of the others as a 1.5. You get Los Angeles. We make fun of them all the time for not really having home fans. I might only give them 1. I might even give them like a 0 or a minus if it's like, oh, it's this national team coming to town. Their fans are going to be there. I might kind of go the other way. I forget the book, but I'd read a book a while back about what is home field advantage really. Like we talk about like, okay, you get to sleep at home. You get the comfort of the routine. The biggest study they found is that home field advantage was referees. Not that the refs are trying to favor the home team. The fans are loud and are pressuring the refs into favoring the home team and making that extra call. You hear the emotion of the call in the moment. And so I think that that's still part of it. But, we've all been to these stadiums. Some stadiums are not rocking so loud anymore. You're like far away from the field and you're out getting concessions or in your luxury box. So I think it's a little bit of all that kind of stuff. I think the last thing too, let's see in a month. Let's see how this holds up. We got the weather now. Let's see how the home field thing holds up now that some of these home weather games come into play. As always, even though we're on a full season almost, still a small sample compared to decades of sample. So let's see once we add in the weather sample and where it goes. Good thing to keep an eye on, but definitely home field fading, but I think not gone. You just got to pick your spots.
Yeah, not every game is Dolphins at Packers, and some games also and some games are also Giants at MetLife, which we will talk about in a few minutes. All right, let's go to our first topic here. So, how many of the current 14 playoff spots do you think are currently locked in? And do you have an angle in terms of like a bet you would make currently either to get into the field or maybe someone to bail out?
So my numbers here are a little bit lower, I think, than most would say. I think most would say 11 here. There's 3 obvious not lock spots. The NFC West, that's the division, the Seattle, Arizona, Rams, San Fran. That one's clearly up for grabs, that spot. Could be more than one, but we got one. NFC South, presumably Bucs or Falcons. And then that Denver spot in the AFC. I think everyone kind of agrees those 3 are mostly up for grabs. I'm going to add in 2 more. Denver is around 80-ish% to make the playoffs. I think that's about right. They've got a tough schedule coming up. They basically play all the teams trying to get their spot still. I'm going to add in Washington. They're in a similar spot in the NFC. They're the 7 seed over there. They're around 80% as well. I don't feel like there's quite the same competition there. They don't have quite the difficult schedule that Denver does, but I think they're still not quite locked yet. We saw a nice bounce back from them, but we also had a lot of Cliff talk before that. And then one last one. I don't have numbers for this. I just can't give up on it. I'm not locking the Texans yet. I don't care who it is in the division. The Colts, I guess, is the only real option at this point. I'm not locking the Texans down. They're going to have to win their way in and earn the spot before I give it to them. So I think those 5 are still a little bit up for grabs. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like miss playoffs, which is kind of the angle I took here, these were some angles that I like going into this. So we've talked about us being pro everyone else but Atlanta in the NFC South, but I still think at plus 118, the Bucks not to make the playoffs at plus money is pretty intriguing considering they're 0-2 against Atlanta. So they would need to find a way to overtake them literally to win the division. And I don't necessarily think we have a wild card team there. So that was one angle I took. Hilariously enough, the next one on my list just going down was the Texans no at 12-1. Houston did sweep Indy, so they're really up an extra one and basically down 3 with 5 to play when it comes to the Colts, which is kind of difficult. But Miami in Houston next week, Indy in Denver. So if you see it going one way or the other, maybe there's an opportunity. But yeah, that's a complete long shot. The other one I think is fun is Arizona, yes, at plus 172. I know we've kind of been on Seattle Island on the other side, but at plus money, looking at it both directions, I do think it's kind of intriguing. They have 3 division games left. Yes, they have the L to Seattle, but they've beaten the Rams and Niners, so there is potentially an angle there. And then I had one more throw out, and I think you might talk about this one later, but I'm just going to give you 2 facts. The Saints are 30-1 to make the playoffs right now, but they're 70-1 to win the division. I'm not sure that makes sense. So you could take that for what you will.
Yeah, I will come back to a couple of those teams later. So I'm going to save my bets here, but we'll come back. We'll come back to Saints and Cardinals later on. I just will say this. Be careful with the make-miss playoff bets here, because for some of these teams, their only real path to make the playoffs is the division. So you may as well take the juiced odds in the division. Like you just kind of said with the Saints there are mathematically other ways, but most of the time for some of the teams we're talking about, the teams in the NFC West, the teams like the Saints, for example, you might have a path to get to the wild card, but you got to like really play around in the playoff simulator to like figure out what that path is. You probably want to get the extra juice and get the division odds if you're going to play it. I've got 3 long shot divisions we'll come back to later.
Yeah, that margin between those 2 numbers is just kind of perplexing. All right, next topic. So the comeback player of the year is a interesting conversation now, especially after what the AP said and who won it last year and flag. It was just very interesting situation. Burrow is favored at the moment, but I feel like it's important for me to kind of lay this out. So this is what the AP did say in terms of comeback player of the year. It's to honor a player who has demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity by overcoming illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led him to miss playing time the previous season. So right now, the 3 players that probably fit that the most would be Burrow. He was 5-5 last year in 10 games. Now he's 9-13 straight up over the last 2 seasons, but he's obviously the favorite based off the fact he has 30 touchdowns and 5 picks. Kyler is the other one. He was 3-5 in 8 games last year, but he's also 9-11 straight up in the last 2 seasons. I'm not sure exactly how much he's come back. The other one's Kirk Cousins. He was 4-4 in 8 games last year. Again, 10-2 last 2 seasons. The question mark I have here is Sam Darnold. I mean, the Vikings are 10-2. They, in any other division, they'd be in first place. And it's Sam Darnold coming back from injuries and being Sam Darnold and not being in the spot to do it. So understand it's not like what the definition of the award is, but I do think no one kind of fits it right now.
Yeah, it's weird. Sam Darnold is really coming back from being a Jet, right? Like that's what he's coming back from, which is really its own sort of injury. I think too, Russell Wilson, a lot of years would be really interesting here. Just coming back from being written off, basically coming back from us that buried him, and now leading this offense into the playoffs. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be in this mix. That was my play before the season. Whatever he came back from, he needs to go back to, find ayahuasca again, and just get out of here, go back to his Netflix. I think, to me, the fact that we just redefined this award and have that stipulation, I can't back Darnold. I can't back Russell Wilson. Like, this just isn't the year. Last year, totally. That'd be the guys that'd be playing. That the narrative is there. The focus on injury is so much here. The reason why I want to talk about this is because Joe Burrow, I think, should win the award. Joe Burrow is playing maybe the best ball of his life. This is a guy that made a Super Bowl run. But here's the facts. 16 comeback player of the years in the last 16, 15 of them, their team won 9 games or more and made the playoffs. They averaged an 11 win rate over a 17 game season. Bengals ain't doing that. They are not making the playoffs. I don't think they're mathematically out necessarily yet, but they're mathematically out. Like, it's not happening for them. So what if they keep losing? In fact, what if they lose the next game or two, Burrow takes kind of a hit, and they're like, shut it down. Because why bother? We're out of the race anyways. Let's not risk our franchise. I've got a Burrow plus 900 ticket. We talked about this like 6 to 8 weeks ago. I've got that for quarter unit. I think if you have a position like that, this is a really good spot that you probably want to add to your position. I think Kyler 9-1 is a pretty good spot here. We're going to talk about Cardinals division later. If the Cardinals win the division and make the playoffs, he fits the formula pretty well. He's off the torn ACL, missed half of last year. And then the guy that we haven't mentioned that I still can't get past, the reason we changed the award rules, I think Damar Hamlin is still one play away from literally running away with this award. The Bills are on every channel, on every game coming up. Like, we're all watching them. All it takes, I think, for the Damar Hamlin story to become the story again is like one key interception, one big punch out on a fumble, like one play where everyone's watching and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that nearly died on the field. He's 16-1 to win comeback player of the year. We don't really have a candidate, like you said. Why isn't it the guy that we watched nearly die on the field 2 years ago, barely get on the field last year, and is now the starting safety of a team that might be the best in the NFL right now? Why isn't he comeback player of the year? I still think that's a pretty good position too.
I liked Hamlin 13-1 or in that range. And also they have no more primetime games. So like if he was to get an interception on like Sunday Night Football and everyone be like, oh yeah, Damar Hamlin, and actually kind of look at the stats and be like, yeah, he's having a good year and remember all that stuff. I think it makes sense. I'll bring up one guy before we move on. What about Justin Herbert? Like, I mean, he got hurt last year. They were 5-8. They're 8-4. You're going to talk about this in a little bit about the Chargers, but what if they beat Kansas City this week? I mean, right now he's 18-1. He's behind guys like Russ and Darnold, which we agree don't really fit the mold, but Herbert got hurt. So I'll just, that's my one guy I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think the point here is that it may not be Burrow. That if Burrow being a sizable favorite on a losing team doesn't fit the usual profile. So whatever team you like Cardinals, for example, they're plus 190 to win the division. I wrote that up on Action Network. I have an article backing that. Then I was like, wait, but if they win the division, Kyler's 9-1 for comeback. Why wouldn't that be a much better way to play than the division at 4.5 times the price? So I think Herbert, you could do the same thing with. Anthony Richardson could be a possibility if you think the Colts make a comeback here. This is a sneaky way to play a different angle, play the quarterback of the winning team of a team you think makes a run. I think is a fun comeback player of the year bet.
Yeah, with 5 more games, I mean, Herbert could have 20 touchdowns and 1 interception this year or something like that. So interesting nonetheless. All right, let's go to one more award that you had brought up that you had an interesting play on here. So Defensive Rookie of the Year is an interesting category because I don't necessarily think we have someone definite, even though we do have someone who's odds on right now. So what do you think there? And then I'll give my opinion.
Yeah, so I think Jared Verse and Quinyon Mitchell, they're the two favorites versus the odds-on favorite. They're the guys that I think we agree probably should be the winner here. What's interesting is the next two guys on the list are their teammates, Brandon Fisk and Cooper DeJean, and those two have better counting stats at some of the defensive flash metrics. You've talked about this before. Fisk has more sacks than Verse. Quinyon Mitchell, no interceptions, no fumbles, no sacks. Sorry, that's what we pay attention to when we're looking at stats. Cooper DeJean has 2 of those 3 things. So I think, could we get like a split vote situation from both of those guys? And the guy that caught my attention is Chop Robinson from Miami, a first-round pick. He's had a sack in 3 of the last 5 games. He's only 2.5 sacks off the lead now for rookies. Not a high bar, but that matters. Thanksgiving, he didn't do great. I don't think he even had a stat that he recorded. The 2 weeks before that, he led the entire NFL, not rookies, the whole league, in pressures and pass rush win rate. He's getting after the quarterback, and the Dolphins play the Jets twice. Aaron Rodgers ain't looking to take a hit. He's just going to go down if you're by him. They play the Texans and the Browns. Leaky offensive lines, top 3 sacks allowed there. They play the Niners. We don't even know if that will be Brock Purdy or who knows by then. I think Chop Robinson, he's 20-1. Again, worth a nibble here. It's not that I love Chop Robinson as much as I just think this award is not closed yet. So on these awards that look like I don't buy that this is over yet, I'm looking down the board. I think he's interesting.
I think Chop Robinson is a great buy, and there's one other guy I'd even bring up, and you kind of said everything I was going to go into about DeJean and the fact that Fisk is leading the league in rookies in sacks, but I still think a guy who has the Giants, Jaguars, and Titans still on the schedule is interesting at 40-1, and that'd be Latu from the Colts. Yep. I liked him a little bit ago. He's still up there in the sack category, and facing those 3 teams, God, anything can happen. So that is my thought. And the other thing, I'm going to take this
top depender from the draft too. Always a good choice with defensive rookie of the year. So I can't hate that one.
Well, and I took this from your article, but 7 of the last 10 defensive rookie of the years, at least 7 sacks. Only 3 corners have won the award this century. So, I mean, without Mitchell, it's interesting nonetheless. All right. Last one, and this is going to be very fun before we get into your best bets. You brought this up, and I have a few thoughts on it. Pick an NBA Cup winner and a Super Bowl combo. A little fun parlay. Everything here is going to be 100-1 plus, but obviously only limited options for who's left in the NBA Cup bracket. But you can start, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
So I set this up for myself. I want to pick a regional combo winner. So I try to pick, whoever the NBA team is, who we're picking. It's not necessarily the same city. You got to let it live a little bit here, like the Magic tie with the Bucks, kind of similar area, Central Florida. You got the Warriors and the 49ers, and a stretch on these Knicks Bills. I know it's the opposite side of the state, but look, we're not tying the Knicks to the Jets or the Giants, so that's out. And then Thunder, there's not a team in Oklahoma. Twitter tells me that folks in OKC root for the Chiefs, so I want to catch crap for that, but Thunder Chiefs is one of the possibility here too. So here's where I'm at. NBA Cup, we're down to 8 teams. Knockout tournament starts Tuesday. Listen to Matt Moore, listen to the Buckets crew over on that podcast. They'll get you set up for everything. I think 5 of those tickets are dead. I think it could be Knicks Bills, but really both of those teams, both the Bills and the Knicks are winning a championship at the same time. I can't bet on that. That's make-believe. And OKC KC, that feels like cheating. No Chet back for the Thunder. I know I get Pat, but I'm not really feeling the Chiefs right now. The Bucks, the Milwaukee one, not the Tampa Bay one, have won 7 out of 8. Giannis leads the league in scoring. Dame's looking pretty good again. Brook Lopez is defending well. Chris Middleton is back as we record this. You get Giannis. I think you might have the best player in the cup. You get Jordan Love going with the Wisconsin combo. Could he be the best player in the NFC? Could he catch fire at the right time? We've seen that happen this time last season. So, Bucks, Packers, 104-1. That's my NBA Cup Super Bowl combo. I like that I could get the Bucks win and then kind of be in a strong hedge position. If the Packers win a game or two as a wild card, give me some options if I need to hedge out later too.
The angle I took here was simple. I didn't want anything short because I don't trust the Bills in the playoffs. I certainly don't trust the Knicks. And you can go on and on. OKC KC is like probably your most likely scenario where you get them both to the final 8 at minimum, most likely final 4 in that sense. But the answer to me is 2 long shots. I liked, and this is crazy, Atlanta at 2,000-1 or so. So Atlanta plays the Knicks, and I do think there is an opportunity for Trae Young to do what Trae Young does, and the Knicks will be favored in the game. The Knicks should win the game, but Atlanta's been pesky this year. And then you look at the other side, the Falcons have beaten the Bucks twice already. So we talked about the Bucks not making the playoffs because of that fact. Well, why don't we just get Kirk Cousins into the playoffs and see what happens? And then the other one, which a little bit more likely, I would say, Houston is 280 to 300-1. So the Rockets lost to the Warriors in overtime already this year. They get them again in this scenario. I mean, most likely will Steph be motivated to try to win a fake ring of some sort just to have something on the resume and do what LeBron did? Maybe. But I think the Rockets are dangerous. And then you look at the other side. I mean, the Texans should get a home playoff game. So, and if they do get that home playoff game on that side of the bracket, they're most likely to face the Chargers and Chiefs and avoid Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Buffalo until the AFC Championship, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Chargers can go either way, and I do think the Chiefs have some vulnerability, and I wouldn't want to see those three other teams in the playoffs till that point. So 300-1, lock it in. All right, best bets time. Brandon, I'll set you up with the fact that Aaron Rodgers did cover the first half last week, but so far he's 11-18-1 first half ATS since the beginning of 2022, and he's 4-9 on the road. So Jets don't start fast, but what do you got here? Jets, Dolphins.
Yeah, I am playing a first half, but I'm going to skip a team here. I'm just going to play the under 22.5, Jets, Dolphins. Look, we're already on 4 late season division unders. We had 3 on the look ahead, or 3 on the hot read, 1 on the look ahead. This one was on my radar. This one's actually ticked up a little bit, 44.5 up to 45.5. Kind of a dead zone, not a too important number there. I'm still going under here. The Jets defense, I think, has rebounded a little bit. They're not what they once were, but I do think the middle of their field is vulnerable. That's where Tua lives. So I don't love the matchup, but I think that they can hang a little bit. The Dolphins with Tua on the field actually have a better defensive DVOA than offensive for the season. They're a league average offensively. They're almost top 10 defensively. And I don't think that that's unrelated. You get a little bit better offense. You're not just like punting the ball and throwing interceptions every time. Defense looks a little better too. So the late season division unders, we had some of those trends on our picks before. They fit here. So total between 40 to 47, 56% to the under. Home favorite under 7 points, 57% to the under. We got wind here. It looks like 12 miles an hour. Windy unders the last few seasons, 61% to the under. So I'm looking under here already. Why first half? First half, you already mentioned with the Jets, they start slow. The Dolphins have started even slower. These teams are both bottom 5 on the season by offensive DVOA, and the Dolphins are worse than the Jets. The Dolphins are 31st on the season, and we got a lot of Tua games in here now too. This is not just Tyler Huntley and whatever other shenanigans. Miami's defense has been better first half also. You look at the games, first half, Jets average 10 points a game, Dolphins average under 9 points a game, and you look at just the total so far, Jets have had 23 points or less in their first halves, like Jets versus opponent. 7 games so far. Dolphins 24 or less, 10 out of 12 games already. And we only are looking at just under that here, 22.5. So I'm shorting just to the first half here where teams have both started slow. I think this is one of those where we notice at 1:30, oh, right, I forgot this was even on red zone. What's happening over there? Because it's already halftime and it's 9-6 at the half or something. So Jets, Dolphins, first half under 22.5.
And I don't know if you mentioned this, maybe no Sauce Gardner, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how.
I didn't mention it because I'm not sure which one it is at this point, quite
Correct.
frankly, the way that he's played. I don't know if I hate that for this pick here. So, yeah, we don't know if he's going to be there or not.
Yeah, not sure how to feel about that one, but we'll always remember Bob Saleh's Jets defense for how bad they've played recently. All right, next pick here. Eagles and Panthers. I'll just say this. The Eagles historically this year have been a terrible first quarter team, but 9-3 third quarter ATS, 8-4 fourth quarter ATS. They've been a good second half team. Is that what you're going with?
I am. I'm going to play the Eagles second half against the Panthers. Look, we've been fading Panthers first halves a lot, but I lost that one last week. We lost when we played the Saints there. The Eagles' first quarter are so bad, I can't do the first half thing with them. The full game line is 13 points. I honestly think they'll probably cover that, but just give me the second half. Eagles minus 5.5. Lots of talk about Bryce Young. He's looked pretty good the last few weeks. Are we sure that that's Bryce Young and not just the Chiefs defense and the Bucks defense, which we're going to get to a little bit, has not been great? What hasn't improved for sure is the Panthers defense. They are still bottom of the league, pretty much every metric, bottom 5 at something or other. Eagles' last 6 games, number 1 run defense, number 1 pass defense, number 1 run offense, number 7 pass offense. But if you look, we're not going to get MVP today. I think A.J. Brown's the real MVP of the Eagles. The Eagles with him on the field are the number 4 passing offense on the season. They only are down a little bit when he's missed some games. So He's there. He's going to play well. I think the Eagles will run all over this run defense. Saquon Barkley's rushing line, I don't know. Did you look this up? You know, if you had to guess, what do you think his rushing yards total is for this week right now?
I know it, so I'm just gonna.
Okay.
I think last time I looked though, 120 range.
Yeah, it opened like 113, 114, and it's just been
Okay.
betting up. So I think it is good. It's a ridiculous line. I can't play that angle. I wouldn't mind if you bet the Kenny Gainwell angle if that pops later on. I just think they're going to run all over this team, especially in the second half. If you look at A.J. Brown splits, much more first half than second half. They just kind of hand the ball off and run through teams. So Eagles, first half offense, number 18 in the league. Second half offense, number 2. They're 9-3 against the spread in the second half. Panthers are 4-8. So Eagles -5.5. We duck below the 6 and the 7 key number in the second half. We duck below the 13 overall. I think most of those probably hit anyway, but just give me the Eagles second half and let's keep it easy there.
Yeah, could you imagine if Jalen Hurts wasn't there? Because Saquon Barkley is -270 to score a touchdown against Carolina. Obviously, Hurts has a very good chance to get in the end zone based off their offense, but Christian McCaffrey was -300 plus last year on his stretch, and I think Saquon would be similar. All right, let's move on to the next one. Now, you're going to tell me that you're interested in a team, and I bet them already as well, but they are, I'm just going to give you this stat. They are 3-30 straight up on the road in Pittsburgh since 1990 in the wildcard era. That is the Cleveland Browns. What are you doing here?
Look, I don't need the Browns to win. I just need the cover. Give me
That's true.
Browns +7. Look, we already bet the under here. Not looking great right now. The under, the total's gone up 3 points. I don't mind. I still feel good about the under. This game just happened a few weeks ago with 12 minutes left. It was 10-6. Nothing is happening. The Browns are winning. Back and forth all the way. Like, we've been watching the Browns lately. We watched Monday night. Back and forth. Heartbreak on the Browns +6, whatever line you had down the stretch. The Browns are competing, though. Jameis has this team believing. They're having fun. He gives them a chance. And the Browns, I think, have been best in these rivalry games. Pittsburgh's defense, last 6 games, is second to last against the run. Their pass D has been really good, but I think Nick Chubb can find some success here, especially in what looks like another windy game. Helps our under, hopefully. Browns defense has been better early in games. Steelers are much better second half. So I think that sets up for the Browns to hang in, maybe lead early on. And really, it's just too many points here. 7 full points. 5 of the last 9 meetings in this rivalry have been a one-score game. I don't really care if the Browns lose. They just need to keep it within one score. Jameis as over a field goal underdog, 21-11-1 ATS, 66%. AFC North division games late in the season, you want the underdog, 63% against the spread. I just think, too, it's a bad spot for Pittsburgh. We've seen this with Tomlin for a long time. We bet him in the rah-rah spots. We fade him in these big comfy spots. They just beat Cincinnati in a big spot as an underdog. They got next Philadelphia, the rival in state, then Ravens and Chiefs on Christmas. So, like, they've got their eyes on other games here. And if you look at the trend, Tomlin, when he is favored by more than 6 after the Steelers covered as underdogs, so after they got the rah-rah win, or at least the cover, what happens when they're big favorites? 3-9 against the spread in Tomlin's career. So it's a small sample, but we don't have a lot of chances where the Steelers were a big favorite and just came out and like laid the smackdown. This is an emotional letdown spot. I'm just taking the +7, and I don't really care what happens if the win or the loss. Just give me the cover, Browns +7.
Yeah, sometimes Jameis giveth, sometimes Jameis taketh. Last week he taketh, this week he should be giveth. So that's kind of, and honestly, if the Steelers, and I might be asking for like trouble here, but if the Steelers get up early, say 7-0 or whatever, I'm interested in like a live SGP of like Browns to cover or win and Jameis over passing yards or something like that. Because I think you're going to see the exact same script of he is just going to throw the ball all over the place. And we've seen Pittsburgh secondary can be beat. It's their pass rush and Watt and all them that create tons of turnovers. But if Jameis gets it out of there, I think there's a shot. All right, get out your notes pad in your app because Brandon's going to do some division futures here. Let's start off with the Saints-Giants game. I think we're on similar angles here since I brought it up earlier, but talk to me.
Yeah, so I got 3 games here where I'm like, okay, I kind of like this team in this matchup, but you know how I am. If you give a mouse a cookie,
Yeah.
if the team wins this game and we're this close to the end, isn't there some future value? So I'm going to give you an angle just for this week and then a futures angle I like along with it. So here's the one for Saints. Saints at the Giants. Give me the first half Saints team total over 10.5 points. So I kind of like the Saints. I don't really know how this came about, but I looked into the numbers. When the Saints have had Derek Carr for a full game this season, they have 8 games like that. They are number 8 in DVOA for the season with full Derek Carr games. Top 7 offensively, top 8 running and passing. League average defensively, too. Again, defense plays better when your offense isn't just a sinkhole giving the ball away all the time. Those 8 Carr games, 27 points a game with him, 14.5 when they didn't have him for a full game. 20 points or more, 6 of those 8. The defense also allowed only 18 in those 8 games. So with Carr for a full game, they're averaging a win by more than 9 points. Without Carr for those other 4 games, or missing him part of the game, they lost by almost 20 points a game on average. So it's a huge stark difference that I think we're not totally counting for. Look, no Taysom Hill, that matters. That is a real part of the offense. He's a loss. In this game, no Dexter Lawrence matters a lot more. Dexter Lawrence has been awesome on the season, and the Giants are just awful. They are the worst team in the league right now. Bottom 3 offense and defense last 6 weeks. The defense has completely fallen apart, and now they lose the one mainstay they had. They're worst in the league against deep passes. We know how that goes against the Saints. Not very well usually. So here's the angle on the game. Saints are way better in the first half on the season. They're top 10 offense and defense. Bottom 10, both of those in the second half. In those Carr games, first half averaging almost 17 points a game, at least 13 in 6 of the 8. They're 6-2 ATS, 7-1 straight up with Derek Carr full game. So I was looking at Saints first half. I was looking at the Saints team total. Smash them together. Give me the Saints first half team total over 10.5 points. And then here's the futures angle. I think the Saints win this game. If the Saints win, the Falcons play in Minnesota. They're getting bigger and bigger underdogs. We'll get to that game later. The Raiders, I kind of like the Raiders in Tampa. I looked at that one hard. It dropped below the line. We'll get to a prop there. There's possible here the Saints could be 1 game back in the division if the Saints win and those 2 teams lose. Now, look, they still have an uphill climb from there. If you're betting, we're going to bet Saints division here. It's 80-1 at one book. That's the bet. Here's the problem. We need help from the Raiders and the Panthers because both of those teams play the Bucs and the Falcons, and we need some help. We need those teams to lose. I don't hate that. The Raiders and Panthers are kind of frisky. They're kind of hanging around, looking decent. The Saints will play after this game. Washington and Green Bay, those are tough, but if the numbers are right, those are winnable games. They're going to be underdogs, but they could hang. You win out, you get to 9-8. The last game of the season, you play the Bucs. That's a hedge spot. That could be like a division straight up game. Look, I don't think it's likely. I make it like 2 or 3%. 2 or 3% versus 80-1 means we got to bet the 80-1. So just a little sprinkle, a little taste of what we're doing here. Saints first half, 10.5 over. Saints division, 80-1.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense with the fact that their playoff odds are so much lower. And I know there's an angle there where they could get into the wild card, but looking at the math, it's just the division is such an more likely angle if they were to do it. I'll also say this, without Taysom Hill, I'm not sure how it's not an Alvin Kamara game if the Saints do exactly what you're doing. So something like plus 350 to score 2 touchdowns feels natural to me, especially with a team, no Taysom Hill and no Dexter Lawrence. So you've got both sides of the ball, things kind of leaning towards that angle, especially a cold game in New York. And what about a first half touchdown? I mean, at MetLife has turned into AT&T Stadium. The Giants have allowed 23, 21, and 14 in the first half of their last 3 home games. So I'm not sure how that doesn't come through for you. All right. Back to our favorite division. We continue to talk about this division on and on and on. It is the NFC West. You've got angles here. I'm listening.
Look, we have been a Seahawks podcast. We have been on Seahawks Island, Seattle Island. I still live there. I got all my futures. We're going to get into it. As I dug more and more into this game, Seattle at Arizona, I cannot escape feeling like I think Arizona is the better team right now and the right side of this week. So It's important to not be stubborn as a bettor. You got to be able to be nimble and adjust as you go. Let me make the case for why I think Arizona is the better team right now, and then I'll get into the bets again. One bet for the game and a little futures escalator on Arizona. Seattle's defense, we've been talking about them. Number 3 defense now outside of that week 4 to 6 stretch period where they lost a lot of their guys. The defense is legit. That part has been true. What I haven't noticed until recently is that the offense is even worse than I feared that they were. Over the last 6 weeks of the season, the Seahawks are the worst offense by DVOA in the NFL. The worst. There's tanking teams right now playing nobody at quarterback that like you or I could play quarterback and we'd improve them. And the Seahawks are worse. They're the worst running team in the league. The offensive line is terrible. Over that same 6-week period, the Cardinals are number 5 in the league in DVOA. They are top 5 offense and defense. The defense, I still don't really get it. I'll be honest. I don't see a lot of the names there that pop, but the defense has made a huge leap as the season's gone on. The pass defense has taken a big leap. Small samples, so we'll see if it holds up. But by the numbers, the Cardinals are red hot and a team that you need to invest in right now. Seattle is a trend play here for the most part. Seattle's won 6 games in a row. I should feel good about our Seattle position. You win this game, you basically go up 2 in the division, and Seattle is in really good shape. I don't feel good. I don't like the way that this lines up, and I don't know that Seattle is looking as good as I wanted them to be. So, I don't mind if you just go the futures route here, but we like to give out bets for the weekend. So if you want a weekend bet, I hate to do it to you. We keep losing them. Cardinals first quarter, Cardinals full-time money line. Look, we started the first quarter bet 2 weeks ago because the Cardinals are the best first quarter offense and Seattle is the worst. That trend is still true. Also, Arizona has been much better defensively at home. Seattle's been better defensively at home as well, and they're on the road here. So you go Arizona first quarter, full-time bet, same game parlay, plus 182. That's how you win the game here. Now, here's the future spot. And it's going to get your notes app because it's coming to you here. We'll put them in the app too. So I'm big on Seattle. I looked in the app. Here's where I'm at right now. I had the over 7.5. We're 1 win away. 2 units on that. Feel pretty good. 1 win. We'll count that as likely a win. I've still got 4.75 units combined on Seattle to make the playoffs or Seattle to win the division. We got a plus 215, a plus 340, a plus 600, and 800. We could keep betting it all season long. I don't know that I would bet Seattle's odds right now to win the division. I would bet those odds, the ones I have, it's a good position. As a bettor, sometimes being in a good position can line you up for the win. Sometimes it can line you up for the right hedge. And I think this is a good spot to hedge. If Arizona wins here, they get the tie break back. Arizona, next 2 games, Patriots, Panthers. Seattle, next 2 games, Packers, Vikings. If Arizona gets the win here, this could flip right back in a hurry to where Arizona is the clear favorite again. The Rams are a game back. They play Bills and Niners next. I think this is a 2-team race. So Arizona is plus 190 in the division. FTN, the DVOA site, they make the Cardinals over 50%. So I think that this is a good standalone bet or a great hedge bet. Couple units maybe on the Cardinals. And we talked about the other angle already. Kyler comeback, 9-1 odds. If they do win the division, I think maybe like a half unit or a quarter unit on that. And then the last one too, that I think this is just a bad number. Arizona is 50-1 right now to win the NFC. If they win the division, they're the 3 seed because the NFC South is going to be the 4 seed. You win a home game, you play Detroit or Philly, you're going to be a big underdog. But if you get one upset, you're in the NFC Championship 1 win away from cashing a 50-1. I don't think I even necessarily want Arizona there, but I sure want a 50-1 ticket on the underdog. I can take the favorite there. I can hedge out. I can just let it ride. I think if the Cardinals win this weekend, you want Cardinals futures. So if we think they win, which I do, this is the time to invest. So just to recap, Cardinals first quarter money line plus 182. That's the weekend bet. Honestly, I'm going to go a little on that one. I want the futures plus 190 on the division. Kyler 9-1 for comeback. Cardinals 50-1 for NFC. It's my favorite play on the podcast. I hate to do a Seattle Island. We're conjoining islands. Seattle Cardinals Island. We're going in on both of them.
I think it's a smart move considering their defenses, right? Like Arizona playing Minnesota felt like they belonged in the game offensively, defensively. Obviously didn't work out. They were up 19-6 and blew it, but that made me feel better about an Arizona defense that I'm with you. I still don't really fully understand because they don't get great pressure, but they get sacks. Like there's lots of things that don't make sense about the numbers there, but I agree. I mean, we are so involved in Seattle Island that having a little bit on Arizona Island kind of just makes sense at this
Yeah.
point, especially going into this matchup. All right, this is your last best bet before we get into a few long shots. So stay around here. Sunday Night Football, you've got the Chargers and the Chiefs. Give me your angle, and I'll kind of back it up with something else.
Yeah, I already got the under here. Still like the under. That one's moving in our direction heavily. I think the market is really overrating the Chiefs. So this is a Chargers play for me. I'm going to take the first half money line plus 148, and then I'll play the division as well. Chiefs are 5-1 to win the Super Bowl right now. That's about the same as the Bills and the Eagles. This is just not that team right now. This is not the way that team is. Last 6 weeks, doing a lot of those stats here. Chiefs last 6 weeks are 21st in the league in DVOA. Their offense is not a top 10 offense, and their defense, the defense we've been lauding all year, 30th in the NFL in DVOA for 6 weeks now, 30th in pass defense. Those are the exact 6 weeks since they lost Jalen Watson, a really important corner for them. I honestly think right now that the Chargers are better in offense and defense and special teams. I think they are just the better team right now. Look, J.K. Dobbins out matters, but I think Herbert can shred this pass defense. If those metrics are right, I think he can really get at them. Chargers have been a more defensive team on the road, top 5 defense on the road. Kansas City's defense has actually been worse at home so far, bottom 10 there. And then there's another thing I found, Patrick Mahomes. We want him chucking it deep. We want the Tyreek Hill passes, right? But we're seeing checkdowns. We're seeing short stuff all game long. 86% of his passes are short. That's the second highest of any quarterback in the league. Guess who the number 1 defense in the league is against short passes? It's these Chargers. They are number 1. So I think the defense can handle. I think the Chargers can win. I think they should win, honestly. They are the better team. I don't know if I believe it, so here's how I'm playing it. Because it's still the Chargers, right? Chargers first half, top 10 offense, second half, bottom 10. Chargers first half, number 2 defense, fourth quarter defense, number 27. We've seen this team in these games, like go up against Baltimore, blow the game against Baltimore. We saw in the first Chiefs matchup, 10-0 Chargers, end of the first quarter. They led at the half, they lost the game. Chargers are 9-3 ATS in the first half. Give me the first half Chargers here. If you want the +3, I don't mind it. You get the key number there. A little more aggressive for me on the money line, plus 148. Look, the full game money line is plus 180. Do I need my money sitting out there for 30 cents extra in case the Chargers charge again late? I do not. So instead of the full game money line, back to the futures escalator. If the Chargers win, they're 9-4. They got Bucks, Broncos next, but home games for the Chargers. I know they're not really home advantage, but at least not a disadvantage. Patriots, Raiders to finish. They could win out. They could get to 13-4. Chiefs go to 12-2 with a loss here. At Cleveland next week. Cleveland is live in that game against these Chiefs. With this pass defense, I'm probably going to be on Cleveland in that game. Then Texans, Steelers, at Denver. Both these teams play Denver. Denver is home for the Kansas City game. That could be a Denver playoff game too, last week of the season. So, Chargers first half, money line, plus 148. And if they do get the win, Chargers 16-1 on the division. I think you want some of these long shots. I think these are still up for grabs. And I think the Chargers are live here.
So we're on the exact same page on 2 angles, and I have another angle on a third one. So Herbert in the first half, career, 59% against the spread. Herbert in the second half, career, 33% against the spread. I mean, that delta is maybe one of the wildest things, and it's consistent year to year. So I'm completely with you with Chargers first half, but I think the angle you could take is Chargers first half and Chiefs full game, which is about 6-1. So if you see the Chargers win that first half, and then all of a sudden the Chiefs find a way to win, which they do every week, ticket is interesting, especially late. And then the other angle here, I'm completely with you. The 16-1 on the AFC West at this point, especially going into this game, which could turn a few things depending on if the Chargers win. What about the Chargers not to make the playoffs at 10-1? Like, what if you go the actual opposite direction? They do face Denver. They do face Tampa Bay. And then they forget about New England and Vegas for a second. They're going to face Drake May and Aiden O'Connell. So they're two quarterbacks who could put up some
Okay.
points. They aren't the worst of the worst. So I think extremes entering a questionable matchup is a good way to attack this.
Yeah, I don't mind the extremes. Even the idea potentially of playing both of those, play the division and miss the playoffs, and just hope that the Chargers charge you real hard either direction. I kind of think that the Chargers, being the Chargers, are disguising us to what's actually a pretty good team with great coaching, great defense, and a great quarterback. I think we took the jersey away and just played them. People would be a lot more excited about them. I think that happened to me, honestly. I've been late coming around to them. But, they're still the Chargers, so maybe it goes the other way. I don't mind playing both directions. Should we get to the long shots here?
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got?
All right, we'll go quickly through these. I got 3 of them. First one, Brock Bowers. I want the receptions escalator. Again, I looked at the Raiders here. I just want Bowers. Bottom 3 are Tampa Bay against tight ends by DVOA. Bottom 5, most yards allowed. They've allowed 88 yards and 91 to Kyle Pitts, 62 to Dallas Goedert. Travis Kelce, 14 catches, 100 yards. That's the one that caught my attention. Brock Bowers, we've talked about him a lot. He's had games already as a rookie of 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, and 13 receptions. He's had 8 or more catches, 5 of the last 8 games. He leads the league in catches since the start of October, averaging 8 catches per game on 84 yards, 11 targets. Like, I don't want yards here. That's the only lines available right now as we're recording, so I don't have a line for you. He's not really popping off huge plays here. I don't think he's rookie of the year because the yards aren't necessarily there. The blocking's not necessarily there. I think you're too late on that one. You need to get it 2 weeks ago when we talked about it. I want volume. I want the receptions. Last week, his line was 6.5, juiced to the over, plus 102 there. Anything like that, we'll take it. I want 8 receptions. That was plus 175 last week. 10 catches, around 5-1. Watch the app. We'll put it in there. But that's the first one. Brock Bowers, receptions escalator.
Yeah, I'm going to look for Bowers and Otten together to see if there's some sort of scenarios there, because Baker loves that, especially without Godwin for the rest of the year. He'll go to Evans, but he loves Cade, and Bowers has been ridiculous. All right, next one.
All right, how about running back a little bit of a Doug Peterson funeral escalator? Let's go down the mine shaft on the Jaguars. I kind of wanted Titans. Jaguars in Tennessee, but it's minus 3.5. Do I really need Titans over a field goal as a favorite with Will Levis and the way their ATS mark is? I don't need it. Titans have dominated the rivalry. I do like their defense, and I want to bet against Mac Jones. Since the start of last season, excluding garbage time, Mac Jones is minus 0.1 EPA per play, 41st out of 45 quarterbacks. Here's the list. He's ahead of only Bryce Young, Zach Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Bailey Zappi. That means he's behind Will Levis, behind Joshua Dobbs, behind Desmond Ridder. That's the quarterback here. And the numbers have played out. Mac Jones has basically played 3 games with the Jaguars now. They scored 7 in one game. They scored 6 in one game. And then last week, they scored 6 again till the last 8 minutes when they finally got 2 garbage time touchdowns and made it look a little closer and kind of disguised this for us. Before those 2 drives, Mac Jones, Jaguars, 27 drives in 3 games, 19 points across 3 games. So I wanted to fade Jacksonville. The problem is, so did the books. The total dropped 43.5 down to 39.5. Jags team total 17.5. Not really worth it. I want this worth my while. So let's take the mine shaft. Jaguars team total under 10.5 is 4-1. Under 7.5, 9-1. It's a ridiculous number, but they literally hit this bet 2 of the last 3 games and were set up to do it again last week. So Jaguars mine shaft all the way down. This team is terrible.
Yeah, let's go no touchdown and getting shut out will be in my portfolio probably by the time Sunday kicks off. All right, last one here, and I'll give you a trivia. Who is the all-time leader in receiving yards per game? You're going to answer it right now.
Justin Jefferson?
You got it.
I only know that because of where we're at on the rundown. Give me the Justin Jefferson, Drake London wide receiver 1 showdown. To me, as a Vikings fan, Kirk Cousins coming back to Minnesota, like this is like a Super Bowl basically sort of feel. And again, I wanted Minnesota here, but so did the books. Everyone's betting Minnesota. You got stationary Kirk, bad pass blocking, off a 4 interception game against all that Brian Flores pressure. The Falcons have had higher scoring road games. They play worse on defense, better on offense. And I think this is a narrative play. I think we get Kirk throwing to Drake London, his new shiny toy, and then Justin Jefferson going, didn't need you anyway. I can do it just as fine without you. These teams are bottom 10 against wide receiver 1. Atlanta's bottom 5. Vikings are second most fantasy points allowed, and it looks like no Stephon Gilmore. I think we get a shootout here with the wide receiver 1s. The lines are somewhere around 6 receptions per guy. London 70 yards, Jefferson 85 yards. So I played around with it. Here's where I landed. 2-part escalator. Both guys, 6 yards, both guys, 6 catches, 60 yards. So that's a 4-part SGP plus 270. Drake London's had 6 and 60, 7 out of 12 games. Jefferson, 8 out of 12. This should be around 39%. That'd be like a plus 150. So I like the plus 270. And then the escalator part, 1 more catch, give me 100 yards. So 7 catches, 100 yards each, 18-1. I think just a bad number. That we need a little boost on the London yards. He's only done this twice. He's gotten close there. But just playing the number, playing the narrative. It's the Kirk Cousins showdown game. So give me the Drake Jefferson shootout here.
Yeah, Mall Santa returns to the Mall of Americas. The one I really like, though, is in terms of motivation, Justin Jefferson's 100 yards behind Jamar Chase for the lead. So in terms of so maybe there's a little bit of motivation there. All right, you have a look ahead. Can't believe it's week 15 already, but what is it?
Yeah, we're staying on the Vikings. They go Monday night. Give me the Monday night Bears-Vikings under 42.5. Love to play sides here on the look ahead. Nothing really popped. This is a trends play mostly. Bears 8-4 to the under. Vikings 8-4 to the under. Monday and Sunday night unders since 2019, 61%. Monday night division game unders. The last 2 decades, 57% to the under. Late division unders. We talked about those ones. 56% if it's a total in this range. 57% for home favorites under a touchdown. There's just a trends play that popped. So I looked. These teams just played a couple weeks ago. Total close at 39.5. So why are we at 42.5 here? Well, I think it's because it's dropping. The look ahead before the season was 46. We're slowly going down. I think we keep pushing there. Now that game finished 30-27 in overtime. It's only the 3rd time in 15 games between these teams that either team hit 30 points. In those 15 matchups, we're averaging under 39 points a game combined, 45 or less in 11 out of the 13, 30 or 73% there. Pretty close to our 42.5 number. Either team scored 20 points only half of the time there. So if the Bears don't score 20 and the Vikings don't score 20, I'll help you with the math. We can't get over 42.5 if that happens. So just get ahead of the number here. Monday night, we got our last Monday night doubleheader. We saved one for December. Bears Vikings under 42.5. That's it. That's the last pick. We gave them all to you.
All right, under an hour. Let's get out of here. That'll do it on the Action Network podcast for our NFL Week 14 Best Bets episode. Do not forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app to see more from all of our Action Network experts and contributors. Plus, you can track your own picks. Also, make sure to check out our Action Network Discord server to chop it up with our experts. I'm in there. Sean Kerner's in there. Nick Giffen, all fellow gamblers during these games. There's a link in the description of this podcast. And don't miss our Week 14 betting preview episode with Stuckey and Raybon, which is out now. And we will be back next week. Same time, same place with more best bets. Thank you for listening. Good luck with all your bets this weekend. And as Jill says, bon chance.